Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode for the Impact of Mindset. I'm joined with Helen Rowlands for us to be talking about sexual confidence. My goodness, my speaking this morning has gone a little bit interesting there. It'll pick itself back up. But I'm really excited to have Helen here to talk to us about her business, Pleasure Waves, how she got into it and how it has changed her sexual confidence and those of her clients. So I'll let Helen introduce herself now.
Hi, Julia. It's really great to be here and to be able to talk about sexual confidence. It's something that was hard won for me, and so it's a really great topic for me. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's really cool to have you on here. I particularly love talking about this topic because I think for women, we generally tend to kind of keep it as the taboo thing that we don't talk about. We might giggle about it or have a bit of a chit chat after a cheeky movie, but otherwise we don't really get into the nuts and bolts of it, do we?
No, we don't. Yeah. So I can explain a little bit about how it came about for me.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So in my 50s, I was really struggling with my health. I'm now 63, and my health just fell apart. I was diagnosed with breast cancer and endometrial cancer and had a series of surgeries, and I just knew that things weren't really, working the way that they should be. And I think that the pleasure element was completely lacking in my life. So I started looking sideways, laterally. The medical profession does the surgeries and all that sort of stuff, but I was left with a slew of problems and no answers. So I found these erotic blueprints, which are the basis for my Pleasure Waves business, and my whole world transformed. I look younger now at 63 than I did in my 50s because I started to put serious pleasure into my life, got seriously connected to my body, seriously pursued my sexual confidence. And this is the end result, my Pleasure Waves business.
Yeah, that's really cool and very powerful. Like, for starters, I had no idea that endometrial cancer was a thing.
Yeah,
that would have been just something else. My goodness.
Yeah, it was not a good thing. Yeah.
And I guess when we go through, I have not had cancer or anything like that, but I have had a fibroid removed. And I remember thinking, that was 2 years ago now. I remember thinking at the time, I really don't feel sexy right now. I put on weight because I've got to take a bit, kind to myself as I let the uterus heal and all that kind of jazz. And you do just feel like, oh, am I sexy, or is it just kind of blobby? And it takes its time.
Yeah, it's a lot of intrusion and invasion on your body, and it really does. It can really knock your confidence, and that part of it doesn't get supported. The doctors are great at doing their surgery and all that sort of thing, but the recovery and the recovery of how you feel about yourself, that's the part that we don't get the real assistance with. But that was the part that I really needed to heal. I think I ended up in that situation of being cancerous because I wasn't in my pleasure. I wasn't living my fullest life. I grew up a really nerdy sort of person. I did a science degree at uni and I taught in schools, and I married young and had a family young. My kids are in their mid to late 30s now. So my whole life was just busy doing things for other people and all that sort of stuff. I've been married over 40 years, but my sex life is now fantastic. It took a long time to get there. There was a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of, not really connecting as we should. Yeah, so I was explaining to you before we came on what I was doing to prepare for this, and I just chose some pleasurable things for myself. I've got a spa bath in my house, and I jumped in the bath and had a really good soak in the bath because that just relaxes me, you know. And I know that, and I know that if I do that, I'll turn up much more.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm so jealous that you have a spa bath in your house.
Yeah. Thank you.
So tell us about these erotic blueprints, because I'd love to know more about them.
Okay, so these erotic blueprints are amazing. You can do a quiz to start to find out a little bit about them. That's really what your mind says your blueprint is. But just to tell you, I took the quiz about 5 years ago, and my husband said to me straight away, whatever that thing is, you can do that. Because he just could see already that I was thinking and moving and changing in new ways and able to relate to him so much better. So there are 5 blueprints or erotic styles. And we're all a combination of them. When very few people are just purely one type of blueprint. So I'll go through the 5, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what my blueprint is and what my husband's blueprint is. So the 5, energetic. You feel all of the energy. I'm very strongly energetic. And as I've understood more about my energetic, I now actually enjoy sexual pleasure that is off my body. That sounds really woo-woo. My husband can play with my vulva with his hand hovering above and moving it in and out, and I go orgasmic. So that's not where you start usually with your energetic, but that's where I am now. But energetics love really, really light touch. Mm-hmm. On their body. That's a great place to start, you know, and they like tease and anticipation. This is what brings them pleasure. So if my husband says to me when he's walking out the door in the morning that there's going to be some fireworks, some fun this evening, that's my turn on. I'm wet by the time he gets home. But if he doesn't follow through, then that's terrible. You know, that's a real letdown for me. But the tease and anticipation is what I need as an energetic. I'm also highly sensual. That's another type. So the sensual loves things like a spa bath, which, Julia, you've just given away that you would love to have a spa bath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have kept that silent.
Yeah. Sensuals love anything to do with the senses. So that they love scent. They love, visually. So a sensual will dress, in colours, and they I can't abide wearing black. I need to wear some colour. And I think about the textures of my clothing and all that sort of thing. The sensual, in their sexual expression, they love contouring touch. Massage can be really, really soothing. So it's a different touch to the energetic. It's more into the skin. It's a deeper touch. Sensuals can short circuit, though they often can be a bit thingy about body fluids, and they can think they can short circuit in a lovemaking experience by thinking about the dinner not being ready. All of a sudden, all of a sudden they think about something that's not done or not right, and they can just disappear. So that was for me. That was true. And so now I can think, okay, dinner's not ready, but my man's here, and we're having a good time. So I can say the dinner will wait. That'll get done. But that is something that happens for the sensual. They can get distracted by needing things to be done. The sexual is the male stereotype in our society. The people who are sexually wired, who have the hardest time, are females, because they they're not really recognized. It's not the female stereotype. Females are meant to be sensual in the stereotypical way of viewing things, but this is not gender-based. A sexual is a person who thinks a lot about sex, maybe their first thought at the beginning of the day and their last thought at the end of the day, and all the thoughts in between. They are not complicated about sex. They love nakedness. The sensual can take more time to get their clothes off. A sexual, like we're on.
Yeah.
They're just very comfortable with nakedness. They're very comfortable with body fluids. They're really straightforward about sex. Doesn't mean they can't be a lot of fun, but they just, they don't understand why it can be so complicated necessarily. My husband happens to have a lot of sexual, and I can vouch for the fact that that's his waking thought and his going to sleep thought at the end of the day. But he is also energetic. So he's a combination of both of those. He's a beautiful combination. So he's a very sensitive soul, but his lead is sexual. I have met women who sexual is their primary way of relating in the world, and they often suffer shame. The men can suffer shame too. They don't want to admit how much they think about sex, and that's a shame for them, that they get caught up in that shame spiral and often end up not having as much sexual interaction as they would really like. Yeah. Then there's a really big group. There's the kinkies.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all such good information. When I first took the quiz, I measured 0 on kinky because I was a good girl. I was a perfectionist and, a science nerd, and I didn't do that stuff. But what I've learned is it's something that I just didn't know about and didn't understand. And now I quite enjoy a bit of kinky play. But kinky is vast. It's just this enormous arena for sexual expression, because there's different types of kinkies. So the two well-known ones are sensation-based kinks. So they can enjoy a bit more of slapping or scratching or hair pulling, a little bit of fun sort of play like that. And then there's the psychological kink. Some people access both, but psychological kink is, the submissive domination type of play, that sort of thing. 50 Shades of Grey, just to say, is not kink education. It's not really how kink is.
Really?
Yeah, it is not kink education. There's a lot to learn to play in the kink arena, but it actually produces a lot of balance and evenness in your life. It's really bizarre, but it actually does. To play out some of those fantasies with another person can be actually really therapeutic. Yeah. So yes, I can safely say I measure way above 0 now for kinky, and it's great to know that, and that I can introduce that into my pleasure and my confidence. And if I meet a kinky person now, I'm not overwhelmed by them. I met a man in his 80s who clearly was a dom, and he just is playful with me all the time. He just says, "Will you have an affair with me?" and all this sort of stuff. And my confidence around that was like, no, who's this guy? He's a creep. I want to keep away from him. But now that I understand who he is and what he's doing, I've entered into the play with him, and it's hilarious. He is actually really, really good at what he does. So I've become confident to engage with people in that sort of psychological way. He's never touched me. He's never done anything wrong other than the banter, But I don't shy away now from the banter because I understand what it is.
Yeah.
And that can be confidence in a workplace. You could have a kinky type of boss or a kinky type of coworker, and you could really set up a big barrier between you and them. And you do need to understand the difference between sexual harassment and a little bit of play, because they're two different things. You need to know and set your boundaries around it. And if you don't have the confidence to do it, don't engage. Just say to them, I'm not ready for this. I can't do this.
Playfulness is something that adults can lose pretty easily, because we get stuck in our head with all of the responsibilities that we have.
We do, yeah. Well, I can tell you, up until my 50s, when I found the blueprints, I was not playful. I was super serious, Helen, and everything had to be perfect, and all this sort of stuff. And I was just getting sicker and sicker. Two things seemed to me that they were going together somehow or other. And then there's the fifth group, which is the shapeshifter. And for some people, this is like the big aha when they discover the blueprints, because shapeshifters can feel like they never get enough. They just love everything. And they can get very frustrated in partnered play because they don't feel ever that there's enough coming to them. So they like the kinky and the sexual and the sensual and the energetic. They would like 4 hands or 6 hands or 8 hands, basically to have enough stimulation. They have massively expanded nervous systems and can really handle an awful lot. So they're an interesting group. So my blueprints, as I said, energetic and sensual, pretty much equal. And my husband is sexual and energetic, but we've both learned to grow into some of the other blueprints in our interactions.
And is that something that the blueprints have sort of talk about encouraging in order to have a really great sex life, or something you guys decided, or a combination of both?
Yes, a lot of the work that I do is teaching relationship skills. I teach people how to play games, simple little relating games. Ways just to have some fun, to take. People can be serious about sex. And it's learning to do some things without the goals, learning to play a game and interact and talk with each other about each other's experience of the things that you are doing. So can I give you an example of a game? This is a fun activity.
Yeah, definitely.
It sounds super, super simple, but it is actually a way to create real connection with yourself or with another person. So you can play this game solo. You could have 2 types of touch. So this is called the A-B game. So touch A might be some scratching.
Yeah.
You try that for a little while, and then you can do it on one part of your body. So I'm doing this on my hand. I'm scratching on my hand. And then touch B would be contouring, massaging type of touch. You experience both of those, and then you say, on a scale of 1 to 5, or no, A-B game, not 1 to 5, A-B game, which was more pleasurable? For me, at this point in time, the contouring touch was pleasurable.
Yeah.
When you bring arousal in, it can change. The scratching might be my higher pleasure than that, but this is information. This is something that I know about myself, that contouring touch was pleasurable. You can do that just with types of touch. You can do it with different toys. You just use A and B and say which was more pleasurable. You can do it on a partner. Give touch A, give touch B, or use implement A, use implement B, pull a rope over their body, or set up a little domination thing as so the rope would be touch A, and a little domination exercise, lie there, cross your legs, don't move. That would be touch B. Which did you prefer, A or B?
Yeah.
Collect information, and your partner might say, oh, didn't like either of those, or wow, I didn't know I would be turned on by a rope being pulled over my body. That's information from both of you.
Yeah.
Wow, I've never tried that before, but now I know that was a huge turn on for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Set aside, half an hour of play, touch A, touch B. Do it for one person, do it for the other, or just do it for yourself, and collect some information, but have fun.
Yeah, I like that, because all of my audience are high performers. And high performers are definitely what you mentioned before about being very goal-oriented, usually harsh inner critic.
Yes.
And so I would imagine, though I'm not going to assume about people's individual sex lives, but when you can be harsh inner critic and goal-orientated, that if things don't turn out the way you want in the bedroom, then a wall can go up, and your mindset can then become the thing that stops you getting excited, having fun, being playful.
Yeah.
And doing a little exercise like that really gets you out of your head and just to come back to learning again.
It gives you and your partner information. So your partner will have a lot more ability to please you because they will have seen the things that you like. I think we get caught up in wanting someone to give us particular pleasures, but we're not clear about expressing to them what the things are that please us. And I think the other mistake people can make is that they think what they enjoy will be what their partner enjoys.
Yeah.
I love contouring touch, so my husband's going to love contouring touch. No, that's not his turn on. His turn on is me standing naked on the other side of the room and saying sexy things to him. I don't deliver that for him all the time, but I know that that's what his turn on is. Because he's a sexual, he loves to see me naked. Yeah.
And I think the other thing is too, is the conversations you hear people have about sex really is only repeating things that are either on films or in magazines, which just don't even really go there. They touch the surface, or it's the same stuff. So everyone makes the same assumptions that everyone's after the same thing.
Exactly. And that assumption that the male is sexual and the female is sensual or energetic is one of the big ones. And it just happens that in my relationship, that is how we are, that I'm energetic, sensual, but he is energetic, sexual. And the energetic part was the part that we found the hardest. He kept asking me to go slower. And I now understand why. He wants slow and really connected sex because he's got this energetic part to him. I thought, I was doing all the right things getting him to orgasm. But now I know that he just wants to be in that flow, I'm telling you some quite intimate things about my relationship here. I do have my husband's permission. We've been married over 40 years. We got married in 1979, and we have really worked hard at our marriage. But we say we've had 4 relationships and they've just all been with each other, and this one's the best.
Different phases.
Different phases, bringing up kids phase, fighting with each other phase, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. There was something I caught on to something before you said that, but I've lost it, so I'm going to go to something else. Often with, talking to different people, the conversation comes up about sex drive.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to know, from your experience, when people talk about mismatched sex drive, do you think that there is such a thing, or is it more just a misunderstanding about the way that we need to accept and receive pleasure?
I think a lot of it comes from misunderstanding. So if you're an energetic you want slow, you want time, you want to feel in the moment. If you're a sexual, you want nakedness fast, and you want, you know, you working at a different speed. So I think this is something that Betty Martin teaches. She teaches the wheel of consent, is to work out who the sex is for.
Yeah.
So we do that a lot more now. Last night, the sex was for my man.
Mm-hmm.
And we had very sexual sex because that's what he wanted last night. Sometimes the sex is very much for me, it's energetic sex, and he offers to play off my body. He found that really, really freaky to start with. He's like, this is not sex, because he's a sexual. Like, you're joking. You want me to play with your vulva, but with my hand out here? I'm not touching it. That's not sex. But now he's happy to do that for me, and he knows that that really feeds me. So I think the sexiest part is actually the conversations, you know, making the agreements. Who are we having sex for today? Are we just going to get into bed and hope that everything works? You know, you wouldn't do that at a corporate business meeting, would you? You know, you don't just jump into the meeting and hope that you can riff off and you're prepared and you're organized. But, you know, in the bedroom, get clear about who this is for, whose needs are you meeting, and what are those person's needs in that particular time. Sometimes my need is for a massage and for, so this is a really valuable piece of information. A sexual needs sex to relax.
Yeah.
A sensual or an energetic needs to be relaxed to have sex.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So they're coming from opposite places. So sometimes my husband is like tense and wired, and I know he needs sex because he needs it to relax. The tension's not going to go. And for him, you know, he's just like a champagne bottle with a cork that's ready to blow. And because he had a lot of shame about being such a strong sexual, he didn't express it. But I know that if I can be present to that and not go into my, this is, you know, overwhelming and I don't want to be here and, you know, how dare he be like that and all that sort of stuff. If I can put all of that aside and say, okay, he's a sexual and he's uptight and I need to respond to this. And it can be exactly the same for a female. A female can be sexually wired, they can be uptight and tense, and they need an orgasm. Yeah. They need that release, and then they'll become human again. And then they'll be able to offer to you whatever it is that you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense? So that to me is really, really valuable because, you know, my husband gets uptight and tense and the release for him is sex. I get uptight and tense. I need a massage. I need a spa bath. I need the lights to be low. I need a conversation. I need to get relaxed. And then he can touch my body.
Yeah, I think it's hugely powerful because you have those mismatch arguments of why can't we just have sex now? And you're like, because I'm not feeling it or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you have to get past the not feeling it and provide it for a person. But, and again, it's that working out, are you being abused? Or is this actually genuinely offering a gift to the other person? You've got to make those decisions. And, you know, I'm fortunate that I have one sexual partner and I've grown with him. But I know for a lot of people in the world now, they have multiple sexual partners and they've got different things to navigate. So you need to make that decision, you know, you need to use your intuition as well. You've got to be safe in the interactions. Yeah.
Yeah. What also loved about what you said before is that conversation is what is sexy. I think that's so underrated in modern dating in particular.
Yes.
Like the amount of conversations that people, mid-20s and obviously younger than that, but my youngest clients, I guess, are mid-20s, where the conversation sometimes doesn't happen. It's more about, I need that need met or whatever, or I had a great date, so we had sex or whatnot. And then you think, yeah, but later on there, people also have the conversation of, oh, yeah, there was no orgasm or whatnot. Thinking, was there a connection? Like,
yes.
Oh, there's a conversation, and you think, yeah, there's a lot of chat out there. Again, back to the magazines and the movies and the superficial talk about sex. That there's this disconnect between our mind, our emotions, and sex and the results.
Yeah.
And people, people believe it, and then they wonder why some sex they're having is not great.
Yeah.
Does that just blow your mind?
It's great observation, Julia. Yeah.
Because for me, I'm like, I've never been a person who, meets someone for half an hour and is like, hey, let's shag. I've never been like that.
No.
But I've often thought, how do you have confidence with someone you don't know, you haven't talked to about what you like, what you don't like, you're not sure about those boundaries? It's really hard to have confidence in that sense.
It is, yeah. And where does the conversation about sexual health come in? Use of condoms and contraception, and have they had their tests, and can they show you their blood tests and all that sort of stuff? They're important conversations to have as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Though I do seem to find that when there's a movie like, I think the last one I remember a lot of girlfriends talking about was when 365 Days came out. And then there seemed to be a lot of other girlfriends of mine talking about sex and what they thought about sex and how confident they were. And would you accept that or wouldn't you accept that? And I'm like, okay, we're talking now.
Yeah, that's the real conversation, isn't it? And that's actually an intimate connection with your girlfriends, sharing that sort of information with each other. And you remember that conversation because that's a real conversation.
Yeah. I think, though, I wonder... it's one of the questions I'd love for you to get your take on. I said before, women don't generally tend to talk much about sex. I think that men generally talk about it, but sometimes not talk about the right things when it comes to sex. Do you have any tips about what kinds of things, using your blueprints about what would make sex better that they could talk to their mates about, for example?
There's a little tool that I use. It's called a dyad. It's a communication tool. It's not a conversation, although it looks like a conversation. And it's where a question gets repeated over and over again, and you take turns answering the question. You never question the other person's answer. You just allow them to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So an example would be to say to your partner, tell me something that would be great for you in a sexual encounter. And just ask the question. The question always starts with, tell me something about. And then you stop. You zip up and you allow them time to think and to say their answer. And when they've answered you, you say, thank you. And then they say to you, tell me something that you would like in a sexual interaction. They zip their mouth and they give you time and you answer the question. You can give long, extended answers or you can give short answers. You just allow the person to answer the question. You set a time limit. If you go for a conversation like that for 30 to 40 minutes, I can almost guarantee there'll be tears. by the end of the conversation, because you'll start hearing things from that person that you never thought you would hear. And you really deepen the conversation. It's an amazingly powerful tool. You can start, that may be not the easiest starting point. You can just start with, tell me something you like about me.
Yeah.
And the conversation just goes, it's not a conversation, it's a tool, a communication tool. It goes backwards and forwards between each person. Set a timer and acknowledge each other and thank each other. You do not, this is one of the rules for a dyad, you do not then afterwards come and pick things apart. You said in the dyad, no. The rule in the dyad is what is spoken in the dyad stays in the dyad. But it's information that your mind will then work with. Wow, I didn't know that my partner would be turned on by that. He, she, whoever your partner is, would be turned on by that. I never really, or I sort of knew that, but I never really realized how important it was to them.
Yeah.
You know, and then you've got things to respond to. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. That's cool. Especially, just saying thank you and kind of honoring what they're saying instead of needing to act on it straight away, so you can mull over it for a bit.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And resisting the temptation to go, pull faces while they're saying things like, I'm not ready to go there. And honor that you're not ready to go to certain things. You don't have to be ready to do everything that your partner would really like. Doesn't mean that you're going to provide it.
Yeah.
It just means that you're listening and hearing that that's what that person would like. And maybe one day in the future, as your trust and confidence grows together, you will be able to provide it.
Yeah. And I think that's important too. You've got confidence with yourself, and then you've got confidence with your partner, and how that grows together is a really key difference as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Terrific. Yeah.
It's interesting because I would imagine in your dyad you'd get out like your fantasies and things like that too, which I don't think I have ever heard anyone be like, yeah, I'll just tell someone random on the street what my sexual fantasies are.
No, they don't. Yeah. So kinkies, like the sexuals, can have a lot of shame about their fantasies, and they will really only share them in a space where they feel totally safe to be seen and heard. And then, they may never act on those fantasies through their whole life. They may never act them out. Some fantasies are just fantasies and they're not to be acted out. But there are some that can definitely, be held for years and years and years, and they never come to fruition.
Yeah. And I think also too, sometimes just having, like we were talking about at the beginning, having this knowledge of what kinds of things can set our partner off. We might get ideas about something that's close to that fantasy or that turn on, but isn't actually it. That opens up a whole nother area of pleasure that you can have together.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, cool. I'm having so much fun in this chat.
My pleasure. That's my specialty, pleasure.
Well, I guess I'd just be interested to know, because my clients, most of them have sort of just started their marriage. There's not many that have been together for 40 years. So is there anything that, and honestly, for me, I'm not married, but when I do get married, I only intend to get married once.
Yes.
Not that I'm poo-pooing anyone that's been divorced, but I often think, you're probably going to laugh at this. I think to myself, I've read those articles where it say having sex once a week is enough. And I'm like, no. And then I also think, but then over like 40 years, or my parents have been married, I think 46 or 47. Once you've been married for 60 years, like my grandparents, or what have you, that adds up to be a fair bit. You've got to be really well connected and pretty keen to change things up. So
Yes.
what are your tips for a long-lasting marriage with a good sex life? Because no one wants a boring sex life.
So as you say that, I think we go through cycles. So we can have periods of intense intimacy, and then most people need some time apart. So there's this natural cycling that goes in a relationship. So you can have intense periods of long sexual encounters, frequent sexual encounters, but then it's quite normal then for people to need to regulate their nervous systems and to actually move apart a little bit for a while. And I think the really important thing is not to be completely dependent on your partner for your sexual satisfaction. This has been one of my biggest lessons. I took up a self-pleasure practice in my 50s. I had basically never self-pleasured. I'd been busy having family, working in a school as a teacher, working ridiculously long hours, and just too pooped to even care most of the time. And I now know how to pleasure myself. And I'm not dependent on my partner when my husband, when he's not available. He's off busy doing his things. I'm not getting cranky with him because I can satisfy myself.
Yeah.
So that's my big tip there is allow for the cycles in a relationship of intimacy and then the rest periods in between. Don't get cranky with the other person, but take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's really only fairly recently, I felt anyway, that even women talking about getting themselves off has even been a conversation. Like, otherwise, I mean, even as a teenager, no one talked about, we're going to get a vibrator and we're going to get excited for ourselves.
Right.
We don't. It was not a conversation. And also, it was like only disgusting people do that, which brought about more of that shame we were talking about.
All of that taboo, all of that shame. Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. Did you have anything?
Yeah. So all of that's true. So that's my tips for a long relationship. Take responsibility for yourself. And if you're not in a relationship, that's actually a really good time to go to a sexuality coach and to work on your sex skills, to learn what your own sexual preferences are, to learn the skills around asking for what you truly want. And that can help you in finding the partner, because you can look for a partner who's prepared to give you those things, and you'll understand the process that you need to go through for them to know what they really want and for you to be able to provide those things for them.
Yeah, perfect. So I think that's great advice. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your program, how it works. So if somebody is single or whether they're in a partnership and want to do it with their a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, what have you, what is their steps to take?
Okay, great, Julia. So I offer both individual coaching and partnered coaching. I offer a package. You can't help someone with their sexuality just in one-off sessions. I like people to make a commitment. Mm-hmm. I work often with people who are energetic and sensual, and so I take my time. They need time to go through the program. So I generally work with people for 4 to 6 months. What happens, the erotic blueprints are trademarked to a woman called Jaya Ma. She's in America. She's created an 8-module program, highly professionally created, and all of my clients get access to that program. There's a lifetime of material in that program. I'm still working with it. So you get access to the 8 modules. You have that for lifetime. That program retails at $997 US, but all my clients get that program. And then I generally find I have 10 sessions with my client, because some of the modules need more than one session to work through the materials. And I tailor it specifically to the client's needs. But I do have really a set program that's been laid out. And I have healing techniques that I use. The dyad is one. That's one of the tools that I teach. That's a really simple but extremely powerful tool.
Yeah.
So there's other things in my package. I blow people away when I tell them everything that's available in my package, but that's the basic package. There's homework for you to do. You actually need to play with your own body. And with your partner's body, it's a really, titrated learning experience, finding your deepest pleasure.
Cool. And I love that you are an example of someone in a healthy, really healthy relationship, that you started doing this in your 50s and you're now in your 60s. So there's no barrier to age to getting more in touch with sexuality and developing that sexual confidence. It's really positive.
That's right. And some of my clients say to me, "You're like my mum, but I can ask you anything," because as you can tell from the conversations I'm having with you, I'm happy to talk. I'll go anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't blanch, and I don't go, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that," or any of that sort of thing. I feel really comfortable exploring with people where they're at. So yeah, I can be like the mum or the confidant if you're in my age group. Yeah.
I think that's so important, because actually that was one of the questions I was trying to say before, but I forgot. A lot of people do have parents that don't openly talk about things, and they feel weird talking about it, or so it is great to talk to somebody external from a family unit that you can fully open up to, and have a really fun, limitless potential with your sex life, because sex is fun.
Exactly. But the interesting thing, Julia, too, is that people come back to me and say, "Wow, I thought we were working on sex, but my business has just taken off." Or, everything's gone into flow. One lady is a shop owner, and she said to me, "It's just amazing. I can tell what blueprint people are when they come into the shop, and I know how to relate to them, and, how to set my shop up, for it to be easy for different people to have a good experience in the shop." And she was just blown away that the information that she was given affected all parts of her life. Her relating with her children, not in a sexual way, but just in the general information, being able to really relate to everyone in her world so much better.
Yeah. No, I can understand that, because when you mentioned before about sensual people touching things, it's like, yeah, I'm that person that goes into a shop and it's like, that pillow looks soft. All the pillows.
Yep. Drawn to the textures and the colors.
Yep. Oh, well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but this has been such a lovely chat. I really, really enjoyed it. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yes. Will I talk about my offer?
Yes, please do.
Yeah. So my offer is for people to go to my webpage, pleasurewaves.com.au, and book a session with me. I offer a free 60 to 90-minute session. I don't offer my coaching to everyone. I want to know that we are a match, but you will get real value out of that 60 to 90-minute conversation. I've seen people change just from that that one session, but it will help you work out if you want to work with me and if I want to work with you, and take that deeper dive into the 4 to 6 month program.
Cool. And so is that done over the phone, or is it like on Zoom when you do that?
That first conversation I do over the phone. My coaching sessions are on Zoom or in person. I live in southern Queensland, so I sometimes do a combination of in person and Zoom. I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So if you guys, I will put the link on both Facebook and on the podcast notes as well, so you can go and check it out there. And the website also in the process of putting all of the lovely freebies we get from our guests. So I'll make sure that I add up Helen's a link there to that 60 to 90 minute session as well.
Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you so very much again. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate your time. So thank you for joining us for the Impact of Mindset.
My pleasure.
Cool. Thanks. See you later.